How to Get Your Voice Back, Reclaiming Speech After Spiritual Silencing. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Occult Bloodlines series, where we expose the systems of spiritual control used by ritual families and teach you how to break them. In this video, we're going to confront one of the most sacred and stolen parts of your identity, your voice. Not just your ability to speak, but your energetic voice, the divine channel of truth, clarity, and command that ritual systems target first in order to keep you silent for life. This isn't just about trauma, it's about spiritual technology and how your voice was disabled by design. Let's start with a difficult truth. If you grew up in a spiritually abusive family, especially one with occult, secret society, or Masonic roots, your voice wasn't just discouraged. It was shut down intentionally, ritually, and sometimes even metaphysically. And this didn't always happen with yelling or violence. Often it happened with praise, with subtle corrections, with public roles you were expected to play. The family taught you who you were allowed to be and who you were not. And if your real voice ever threatened that performance, it was shut down, redirected, or punished. Spiritual silencing is not just about being told to shut up. It's about being conditioned to believe that your voice is dangerous, that if you speak the truth, you will be rejected, punished, or abandoned. It's about internalizing the idea that speaking out will ruin everything, not just for you, but for others. This is one of the most sophisticated tools of occult family systems. They convince the child that telling the truth is selfish, that protecting the abuser is the noble thing to do. And over time, the child becomes the enforcer of their own silence. But the effects don't end in childhood. This kind of conditioning shows up later as chronic throat tightness, hesitation before speaking, voice loss and conflict, over-apologizing, or even stuttering. Many survivors say they feel their throat shut down when they're about to speak the truth. That's not a coincidence. That's energetic training. Ritual families know that the throat chakra, the fifth energy center in the body, is the gatekeeper of manifestation. If you can't speak clearly, you can't create. If you don't give voice to truth, it can't be anchored in your timeline. That's why your voice was attacked, because your voice is a tool of liberation. And for many survivors, it's the last thing to come back. Let's break this down into the metaphysical mechanics of voice suppression and how to get it back. 1. Voice theft begins with the programming of obedience. In ritual families, children are not raised, they are programmed. From early on, the child is conditioned to believe that love equals obedience, that survival depends on agreement. So when the child starts to form opinions, feelings, or questions that threaten the system, they're quickly corrected. Not always through violence, but often through subtle control. Don't say that. That's not appropriate. You're being dramatic. No one will believe you. These phrases may seem harmless, but they are scripts of suppression. The child begins to associate truth with danger. And over time, they learn to silence themselves before anyone else does. That internal censorship becomes a ritual pattern, one that plays out again and again in adulthood. 2. Ritual families use speech-based contracts. What most survivors don't know is that speech itself is often used in occult contracts. If you were ever forced to say phrases like, "I will never tell," "I am loyal to my family," or "this didn't happen," those weren't just manipulations. Those were ritual word bindings. In spiritual law, what is spoken aloud carries force, especially if it's spoken in a heightened state, like fear, trance, or obedience. These spoken contracts become energetic loops. Every time you try to tell the truth later, that original statement creates resistance. You may feel like you can't speak, or that something is holding your throat. That's not psychological weakness. That's programmed interference. 3. Silence is used as a spiritual agreement. In metaphysical systems, silence is not neutral. It can function as passive consent. That means if you were silent in moments of harm, even if you were terrified, the system may count that silence as spiritual agreement. This is especially true when ritual abuse happens in groups. If a child remains silent while others speak or participate, the child is often ritually marked as compliant. This is not fair, it is spiritual fraud. But it happens constantly. That's why survivors who never told anyone what happened often experience a deep sense of energetic stagnation. It's not because they're weak, it's because the silence itself became a contract. 4. Shame is the gatekeeper. Voice suppression is almost always guarded by shame. Shame says, if you speak, people will leave you. If you say what happened, no one will believe you. If you tell the truth, you will destroy the family. This is internalized programming, and it is deliberately installed through ritual inversion. Inversion is when abusers transfer the shame of what they've done onto the victim, making them feel guilty for the truth. And the voice becomes the battleground. You may physically feel your throat close up, your body shake, or your words evaporate the moment you try to speak up. This is spiritual trauma lodged in the fifth gate, and it must be unraveled with precision. Now let's talk about how to get your voice back. And I don't just mean how to speak, I mean how to spiritually reclaim your throat as a sovereign instrument. Your voice is not a tool for performance. It is a weapon of truth, a tuning fork of power, and a spiritual declaration of presence. Step 1. Identify the contracts that silenced you. Go back and ask, what were the phrases you were told as a child? What words shut you down? What threats or spiritual scripts were used to suppress your voice? Write them down. Example, we don't talk about that. That never happened. You'll get in trouble if you say anything. Don't embarrass us. Now counter them with truth. For every phrase, speak aloud its opposite. I speak what happened. I name it fully. I give myself permission to tell the truth. I will not protect harm with silence. This isn't just empowerment. This is contract reversal. In spiritual systems, a newer, stronger statement can override an old binding, especially when spoken in full awareness. Step 2. Declare your voice as free. Say aloud, my voice is mine. It does not belong to this family. It does not belong to a system. It is not owned by trauma. I revoke all bindings, codes, and contracts placed on my throat, my words, or my silence. I take back my voice now. This may sound simple, but if said with full presence, it is ritual undoing. You are reclaiming what was stolen. Step 3. Reopen the fifth gate. The fifth chakra, or throat center, is the spiritual gateway of expression. If it's been blocked, you may need to reawaken it through sound, movement, or vibration. Sing. Hum. Speak aloud your story in private. Massage your neck and throat while saying, I allow my voice to rise. Use blue gemstones like lapis lazuli or sodalite as amplifiers. Visualize a blue spiral of light opening at your throat, burning away cords and seals. Remember, your voice is an energetic current. It must be reactivated through physical and spiritual engagement. Step 4. Break the spell of secrecy. If you were part of a family where secrecy was sacred, speaking is a sacred rebellion. Every time you tell a piece of the truth, you break the spell that was placed over your lineage. You do not need to scream. You do not need to shout. You just need to be clear. Say what happened. Speak your story, even if only to yourself at first. Because once the truth enters the air, the system that silenced you begins to collapse. Step 5. Let yourself be heard. Getting your voice back doesn't just mean speaking. It means being received. For many survivors, the hardest part isn't telling the story. It's the fear of not being believed. That fear comes from early programming, when your reality was denied. But you can choose new witnesses. Share with safe people. Record yourself. Join healing spaces where your truth is honored. The act of being heard is healing in itself, because it tells the body, you are no longer in the ritual. You are in freedom now. Let's review what we've uncovered. Voice suppression in ritual families is not accidental. It is spiritual, intentional, and installed through fear, obedience, and shame. Spoken phrases used in trauma can function as contracts and must be reversed aloud. Silence, when forced or manipulated, is counted as consent unless energetically revoked. The throat center is a spiritual gate and must be reopened with deliberate intention. Your story, when spoken, becomes a weapon of liberation, not just for you, but for your bloodline. If your voice still shakes, that's okay. If the words don't come easily, you're not failing. You are remembering. And that memory is the beginning of return. Because when your voice returns, your timeline restarts. You were silenced by design, but you can speak by divine right. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.